This is section 2.4 of our precalculus class. In this section, we're going to be talking about dividing polynomials, which is using either long or synthetic division to divide some polynomials, and also get a reminder of what the remainder and factor theorems tell us. Okay, so we have some examples here we're going to go through, and we'll talk about long division first. So I'm going to do another side example for you with some long division. So example, we want to divide 4 minus 5x minus x squared plus 6x cubed by 3x minus 2. So you set it up just like you were doing long division back from grade school. So I'm dividing by 3x minus 2. So I'm going to take 3x minus 2 and divide it into, right? How many times does it go into this third degree polynomial? And you always want to write it from the highest power to the lowest power. And if you ever were missing a power, you should have a 0 there. Okay, in this case we have every power, right? We have x cubed to x squared to x to a constant. So we have every term, so just put it in descending order. So then you ask yourself, 3x goes into 6x cubed how many times? Or some people would say 3x times what equals 6x cubed? And we can see that that's 2x squared. So now I take my 2x squared and multiply it times this entire linear polynomial here, and I get 6x cubed minus 4x squared. Then I want to subtract that. So I'm going to subtract the whole thing. So I put parentheses around it. And when I subtract it, I'm left with minus x squared minus a minus or plus 4x squared. So I get 3x squared. Then I bring down the next term, which is minus 5x. I go back and I say 3x goes into 3x squared how many times? Or 3x times what equals 3x squared? That's x, right? It's 3x times x equals 3x squared. So I write plus x. Now I multiply that times this polynomial and I get 3x squared minus 2x. Then I subtract that. So subtract the whole thing. And then I get 0. And then I get minus 5x minus a minus or plus 2x. So minus 3x. And then bring down the last term. And I ask myself 3x times what equals minus 3x? That's minus 1, right? So I write my minus 1. Multiply that through, I get minus 3x plus 2. And then I subtract that. So I'm left with 4 minus 2, which is 2. So that's my remainder. There's nothing else to bring down. So the way I write that is I say, okay, I took this third degree polynomial, I divided it by 3x minus 2. It gives me this second degree polynomial, 2x squared plus x minus 1, plus my remainder term, 2 divided by 3x minus 2. So that's the answer. So I won't really totally go through this whole one, except I want you to remember here that I said you have to have every power. So notice there's no x cubed term. So we have to write 0x cubed right here. And then this one's pretty simple to see how this works out. So take a look at it. All right, synthetic division. Synthetic division, first of all, you must remember, it's only to divide a polynomial by this simple linear factor of x minus some constant. So you always have to think of it as x minus some constant. So let's start with a simple example. X cubed plus 4x squared minus 5x plus 5 divided by x minus 3. The way you do it is you take the c term. So this is x minus c. So the c is right here, you 3. You put a little square bracket around it and bring down the coefficient of each term that you're dividing into. So 1 for x cubed, 4 for 4x squared, minus 5 for 5x, 5 for 5. Okay? So you write them that way. And notice I'm breaking it up into step by step. So you would be here at this point. So now in the next step, what you want to do is bring down the first guy, just leave it as it is. So take this 1 and bring it down. In the next step, you would take that 3, multiply it by that 1, which is 3, bring it up to the next spot and write it under there. Then you're going to add those two terms. So that's 4 plus 3, which gives me 7. And you sort of repeat this circular process. So now I'm going to say 3 times that 7 is 21. That goes up into the next spot. You add those two terms and you get 16. Then the next thing would be 3 times 16, which is 48, goes into the next spot. Add those two terms and you get 53. So when I take x cubed plus 4x squared minus 5x plus 5, I divide it by x minus 3. I know I'm going to have a quadratic, right? Because x goes into x cubed, x squared times. So these are the coefficients of that quadratic. The last term is your remainder term. So it's x squared plus 7x plus 16 plus 53 over x minus 2. So hopefully that gives you the idea. Kind of go through and see that. Now in this case I do it all quickly. Like synthetic division is supposed to be all done in this one step, not right now at every step like we did up here. So you can kind of look at that and make sure you understand every piece there. The remainder theorem says that if I have a remainder when I'm dividing by x minus c, that's actually the value of the function at c. So if I took f of x equals x to the fourth plus 6x cubed plus 2x squared plus 4x plus 10, and I wanted to find f of 1/4, we know we could just plug that in. But we could use synthetic division, which is a lot easier, by that being my constant c, 1/4, go through this synthetic division process, and I see that that's my remainder term. So my remainder term is actually the function value at that 1/4. You could easily check by plugging in 1/4 and seeing you get the same value. All right, now let's solve, in other words, this is saying find the roots of this cubic equation, right? Find the roots of this cubic equation by solving 12x cubed plus x squared minus 9/2 x minus 1 equals 0. I'm trying to find the roots of f of x equals this guy. So I'm told that x equals minus 1/2 is a root. So in other words, I would have a factor of x minus a minus 1/2 if I were to factor this, which is x plus 1/2. So my c though is minus 1/2. So I would write my c value here, and I would do synthetic division on the terms, and I would see that that means I would have a quadratic of 12x squared minus 5x minus 2 once I factored out that x plus 1/2. Then I could factor that guy, and I could see what all the roots would be. Minus 1/2 I knew to start with. 4x plus 1 equals 0 gives me x equals minus 1/4. 3x minus 2 equals 0 gives me x equals 2/3.